Welcome to tonight's webinar. It's actually supposed to be Breast Cancer Awareness Month. That's why I decided to do it. See that? I coordinated with the world. That doesn't happen very often. Here's our disclaimer so that you can read over. Basically, it says, just because you take an herb class doesn't mean you never can go to a doctor again or you should stop your medication. We believe in common sense, and just do some things like stop your medication. You could end up with a major problem. Some medications cause terrible, terrible withdrawal. Okay. One thing we've learned in health a lot is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I don't know if everybody here is younger than me, so I'm not sure if anybody's heard that before. But I believe that is really, really true. And I'm really glad that that's what natural health is about, is preventing bad health or preventing things from happening. For instance, my grandson was sent home because he has been exposed to COVID. Actually, both my grandkids were exposed to COVID. But we're not all that worried because we don't eat sugars and do a lot of milk products, and we eat healthy foods and take things with vitamin C and stuff like that in it. Rather than eat all kind of garbage, then when you end up with something, your body can't fight it. So we're going to talk a lot about prevention. I have worked with people that have breast cancer, and they have been able to overcome it. But I believe it's better to never get in the first place. And that's a big part of what this class is going to be on tonight. 1 in 8 women born in the United States today will end up sometime in their life developing breast cancer. That's a lot. 1 in 8. That's 12%. And that's according to www.cancer.gov. That's where we got that statistic. So we're going to go over the 14 major things that can affect the breast and breast cancer. And these are what they are. We are going to go through them one by one. The first thing is to take care of your liver. The liver pulls out mutated estrogen. It's mutated estrogen that causes breast cancer, probably about 99% of the time. The only other reason that I know of that people develop breast cancer besides a weak liver as the base is calcium out of solution. Sometimes people get calcium deposits in their breast, and that can turn into cancer too. Symptoms of a weak liver are bloating or passing gas more than once a week. Waking up during the night, you should sleep the whole night through. If you wake up to look at the clock or go make wee-wee or fluff the pillows or something like that, that indicates that the liver is having a really hard time detoxifying itself. Any kind of female problems, not just breast cancer, but heavy periods, missed periods, endometriosis, fibroids, hot flashes, PMS, cramping, all those things indicate that your hormones are out of balance. And they're usually out of balance because of the liver, and we'll get to that in a second. So what I would do if I had any of these symptoms is I would nutritionally support the liver. My favorite herbal combination for the liver is Liver Cleanse Formula. And I had a husband that had hepatitis C, excuse me, and we tried, I don't even know how many different kinds of liver products. And Liver Cleanse Formula was the cheapest and actually the best. So that's a double win there. If I had any of the symptoms that we talked about, I would start out with at least 3 a day. If you only sleep the whole night through, maybe half the time in a week, then I would take maybe 5 to 6 a day. And if it's been like, oh man, I rarely sleep the whole night through, I would start with 10 a day. So figure out how many, and if you need to have some help, Joanne and I would be more than glad to help you through this. I would start with that many a day, and then I would increase the capsules by 1 capsule a day per week until you sleep the whole night through, 7 days out of 7. So let's say you're sleeping 5 days out of 7, and you take Liver Cleanse, start with 3, go to 4, go to 5, and at 6, you sleep the whole night through. Then you stay there for a little while, and then you can start backing down. And when you come back down to 0 and still sleep the whole night through, then that is a good indication that the liver has the nutrients, and you don't need to take any more. Most people don't only need to go up to 6, though. I personally was up to 45 a day, but I had terrible insomnia. I never slept between the hours of 1 and 5. Never. How many were you on, Joanne?
I went to 30 before I slept through the night, but I was a horrible insomniac.
Right. So if you're a terrible insomniac, you may have to do a lot. There is no known toxic level to this. Matter of fact, when my granddaughter was 6, how old was she? 6 weeks old? No. Younger than that. I can't remember right now. Boy, I'm getting old. But I think she was like 5 weeks old. She was about 5 weeks old. She wasn't pooping. And it's the liver that releases the hormone that causes the peristaltic action. So we knew that her liver was a little bit weak. We gave her the equivalent of 6 capsules in a liquid, an extract of water, in a bottle. And then she had better bowel movements. But she was only 5 weeks old, and we gave her 6 capsules a day. So you don't have to go, oh my goodness, I took double dose. I took 8 of them or 10 of them. They're non-toxic. If you have a child chug down a whole bottle of them, the worst that's going to happen is they might get a little diarrhea the next day. Another symptom of a weak liver is if this muscle gets tight. My muscle used to be hard as a rock. It's still not exactly mushy like it should be, but it used to be hard as a rock. When people would come behind you, how some people would massage your shoulders, and people, they go like, oh, doesn't that feel good? And it's like, it hurts so bad because my muscles are just so tight. And sometimes when the liver's been bad for a long time or weak for a long time, it'll start affecting your night vision. If when the lights come at you, you see kind of a glare, or whenever they pass you, it's hard to see again, for your eyes to adjust to the light and to the dark, I would also do castor oil packs. And what I would do is take castor oil, and this is the kind that I get, the one with a pink tree in the middle of it, because it's hexane-free, organic, and cold-pressed. So it's the good stuff. There's a lot of castor oil out there that's really garbage. So I would take it and put it on unbleached muslin or unbleached flannel. Since I'm cheap, which if you know me at all, you know I'm a very cheap human being, I would take my ex-husband's old T-shirts, white cotton. You don't want to use any kind of synthetic. White cotton T-shirts that were like, ready to throw away. I would rip them up, and that's what I used. And you can use the gauze, the gauze pads, like if you have a big cut or something. I have used those too in the past. And I would put the castor oil pack over the liver. The liver's in the bottom right-hand rib cage. And I would tape it on with wax paper. You do not want to use plastic wrap. Make sure you use wax paper. Because if you don't use wax paper, the ricinoleic acid in the castor oil can break down the formaldehyde, and you'll absorb that. And formaldehyde is very hard on the liver, or hard on the body in general. And you leave it on all night long. How many times a week you do this depends on how bad the eyesight is. If the night vision is really, really bad, you could do it every night if you wanted to. If it's not, you don't have to do it every night. Then take it off in the morning and wash. And remember, no plastic wrap. Are there any questions on anything so far?
Yes. Someone wants to know, you say never to reuse the castor packs, but can you wash them and reuse the flannel?
Yes, you can. The reason why I say make sure you don't use them again is because there are some websites that tell you can reuse them how many times, but it's really not good because the castor oil is going to pull out all these toxins. If you put it back on your skin, what comes out can go in, and you could reabsorb those. But if you wash them really well, not just swish them out in water, but really wash them well, yes, you can use them again. Good question. Are there any others?
That's it for now.
Okie dokie.
Oh, wait, no, there's another one. Do we need to apply heat?
For most people, no, you do not. I mean, you can. If you do a hot water bottle. Do not use a heating pad. But most people tell me they don't need to. The only time they do is if someone's energy and temperature is really low. If someone has a bad thyroid, their temperature, core temperature, might only be 95 or 96. And if that's the case, I would probably put a hot water bottle on. But most people do not. For one thing, whenever you have it against your skin and you tape on the wax paper, it gets it doesn't get cold. Even though it's a liquid, it feels warm to the touch. Another good question. You guys are on a roll. Okay, is that it?
And what do you mean bioidentical progesterone cream?
Oh. Sometimes whenever women have female problems, they are lacking progesterone. So if that's the case, then I would suggest you use bioidentical progesterone cream made from wild yam rather than like Provera. Provera is bovine or cow progesterone, and that can cause all kind of problems for you. That's what I mean by bioidentical. It's made from a plant, and I think they used to call it a pseudo progesterone, which means kind of like a fake progesterone. The body can use it exactly the way it uses progesterone, but it comes from a plant and not a living thing, not an animal. Very observant. Good job. Anything else? Okay.
No,
So this is... I'm sorry, what?
No, that's it for now.
Okay, good. Your ovaries, and later on when you go through menopause, your adrenal glands produce estrogen and progesterone. So it's the ovaries that produce the estrogen and the progesterone. But if you notice, the estrogen pulls out. The body pulls out the estrogen here, and then later on, the progesterone and estrogen here. Although your ovaries and your adrenal glands produce the hormones, most of the time, the reason why there's an imbalance is because the liver is not able to pull these hormones out. If your hormones go like this during the month, you will ovulate. And your period will be like clockwork every 28 days. However, if it does not, and your ovaries have produced estrogen, even if it does produce progesterone, it's not dominant. The progesterone is not dominant. So you don't set up an egg. The estrogen causes the egg to mature, but the estrogen being submissive and the progesterone being dominant is what sets up the egg in the follicle for the next time you ovulate. So there's a lot of people that their cycle gets really bad, or they end up with being infertile. And the doctor said, well, you got enough estrogen, you got enough progesterone, but enough isn't the problem, it's the balance that is the problem. And that's what causes all the other problems like heavy periods, missed periods, endometriosis, all those things. Okay. Now this is important for two reasons. Even if you are past menopause, most breast cancer are caused by mutated estrogen. Doctors will say it's caused by estrogen. They'll say, oh, whatever you do, don't take black cohosh, blue vervain, blue cohosh, red raspberry, because you have had estrogen-fed breast cancer. Well, for one thing, plant source estrogens do not mutate, but animal fat-soluble estrogen and progesterone hormones can. So whenever they test it out of the blood, they don't really differentiate the two, which is very sad. This is to understand why these cause a problem. These, let's say this is a breast tissue, a cell of a breast. They have little receptor sites on them, which the estrogen attaches to. If the body uses it once and the estrogen dislodges, goes through the bloodstream, and the liver checks it out, it checks it over, goes, that's a pretty good estrogen. Let's do that one more time. Let's recycle it. And it'll put it back in the bloodstream. A weak liver cannot filter it out properly. So the mutated estrogen goes in the bloodstream, and it does what estrogen is supposed to do. It goes to the receptor sites. Is everybody with me? Xenoestrogens that are found in laundry detergent and found in plastic and some medications and just different things have a xenoestrogen, which is already a fake and mutated estrogen. So if you add a lot of those to your diet, those xenoestrogens will act like an estrogen, and it will go to the receptor sites. If you have enough mutated or xenoestrogens in your body, in the receptor sites, this cell can start growing abnormally, which then the doctor would test and say, oh my goodness, you got breast cancer. So it's not estrogen alone. You know, a 16-year-old girl has much more estrogen than an old chick like me. Much, much more estrogen. But they don't usually get breast cancer, not as often as an old chick like me. So it's not just estrogen, it's the mutated estrogen that causes the breast cancer. So I suggest that you cut out all xenoestrogens and make sure your liver's working really well so that they can get rid of the mutated estrogen. Long time ago, my mother, she was still alive. She was born in 21. So if my mother was still alive, she'd be 99 and a half years old. When she and her classmate graduated from high school, so what, 18 probably, 19 maybe, the lady, or the young girl, ended up with a lump in her breast, and they tested the lump, and they said, you have breast cancer. So they were going to do a double mastectomy and take lymph nodes and stuff like that. And an old-fashioned doctor named Dick Murray, the most amazing doctor that ever hit the world, and for some reason, he was in our little town. And he said, don't let them do that to you. Let me do an exploratory. I will cut out the bad part of your liver will grow back, and your breast cancer will go away because the liver will be able to do its job. And being young, she didn't want her breast removed, so she took a chance. And my mother died at 86, and her friend was still alive. Never had chemo, never had radiation, never had to have the mastectomy because the doctor took out that part of the liver, and again, it grows back. I mean, you can cut out 3/4 of your liver, and it'll grow back to full size and function. As a matter of fact, how amazing the liver is. If Joanne needed a liver and we matched, I could give her a hunk of my liver. They would put it in her body, give her suppressant, medications, immune suppressant medications, and the liver that I gave her would grow back to full size and function. So the liver is amazing. There are so many people now that they get their breast removed. Wasn't it Angelina Jolie that it was in a family, so she just automatically got her breast removed? That's sad. That is really sad that someone is that afraid. They say that breast cancer is often hereditary. You know what? I think a weak liver is what's usually hereditary. Okay, so, one more thing before we go on. The plant-based estrogens from blue vervain, blue cohosh, black cohosh, red raspberry, those are the main ones that people use. They are pseudoestrogens, so they will fill up these receptor sites. Actually, some people say soy has a pseudoestrogen in it too. So they'll fill up these receptor sites so that whenever a xenoestrogen or a mutated estrogen comes around, it can't attach. And if it doesn't attach to the receptor site, that cell never turns cancerous. So when doctors tell you, don't do black cohosh or don't do red raspberry, it's because a long time ago, maybe 15 years ago, I'm not very good with time, life goes past so quickly, but about 15 years ago, they did a hormone replacement therapy study where they took the urine from a pregnant mare and they made a pill in it called Premarin. That's when you're taking Premarin, you're taking horse pee, is basically what you're taking. And they had to stop the study in the middle because the women were coming down with breast cancer like wildfire. I can't even remember the percentage, but the percentage was unreal. That they actually stopped the study in the middle and said, you cannot do this. Then they went later on and go, okay, well, we'll just make it a little bit weaker. And they did another study, and not nearly as many women got breast cancer. But they said, okay, estrogen is what caused that breast cancer. Estrogen from a horse, a pregnant horse, is different than estrogen you find in a plant. Okay, are there any questions about this?
Yes, there are. The first one is, at a guess, how long does it take to develop breast cancer?
A long time. Usually a long time. Unless you have like hepatitis C or something that hits your liver really hard, it takes a long time. It doesn't happen overnight. Years. So by the time you feel a lump, there's been something brewing there for a couple of years. That's why prevention is the key. Let me say something about cancer before you ask the next question. Cancer doesn't scare me because I know of a lot of people that have overcome it because they have done the right things for their body. If you keep your liver healthy, you stay away from hormone replacement therapy, the chances of you, and keeping your liver really healthy, the chances of you getting breast cancer are very low. Okay. Any other question?
Yes. Does having children and breastfeeding reduce your risk? Also, if so, why is that?
Anytime you use a part of your body, it gets stronger. If you lift weights, your arm muscle, like if you lift weights with your right arm and not your left arm, your right arm would beef up and your left arm would be kind of, right? The more we use all of our body parts, if it's immune system, if it's an organ or a gland, it gets stronger. The use of a female breast is to feed. So yes, you do get benefits from breastfeeding because it has been used. You've done little barbells on your boobs to make them healthier. That doesn't mean like, oh my goodness, I never breastfed, I'm doomed. That's not what I'm saying. But anytime you use any part of your body, it makes it stronger. Oh, and that's why. Very good questions tonight. Okay, are there any questions?
Can you take liver cleanse if you're pregnant?
Maybe. If you're pregnant and you've used a lot of chemicals or you did drugs or medications or painted things or washed your hands with turpentine to clean them with paint and stuff like that, I would not do a lot of liver cleanse because liver cleanses the liver. And although there's a blood womb barrier where not as much of the toxins get into the womb, the body tries to protect the baby, it can get through there if it's high enough saturation. So I wouldn't like, oh yeah, I'm pregnant, I'll just take 20 of these, start with 20 a day. I wouldn't do that because a lot of it can get in the bloodstream and it can get to the baby. I also personally, and there's nothing really scientific about it, it makes sense to me. I would not do liver cleanse the last week of my pregnancy because when a baby gets to a certain age, they sometimes have a bowel movement inside of the little sac with the fluid in that they're protected in. And during the last part of the pregnancy, they swallow that and they pee it out, and they swallow it and they pee it out. Well, you don't want them swallowing any kind of, feces. So I wouldn't do it the last week of the pregnancy. But prudently, my daughter took, I don't remember how many she took. After she had Ava, who was born with a broken pooper, she's the one we gave the liver cleanse to. For the other kids, she took something for her liver because my daughter has a weak liver from me and her husband has a weak liver. So she would take it during the pregnancy. I think she'd take like 8 or 10 a day. And that was more than safe because she grew up with a mother that was kind of anal about doing chemicals and stuff like that. So I know that's a long answer, but basically it all depends on how toxic the person is and how much they take. Any other questions?
That is it. Someone was asking about this being on YouTube, and do you have this class on YouTube?
I don't remember. If you email me, so put your email in the a private thing to Joanne, and I will email you the link. I just don't have it memorized. Okay.
Yeah, I'll check it, so I'll post it.
Okay. Any other questions?
That's it for now.
Okay. Sources of xenoestrogens. Remember, that's the bad mutated estrogen, the unnatural estrogen. They're found in fungicides, herbicides, pesticides, plastics, especially people that microwave. I don't believe in microwaves anyhow because it's not really that good for you. But if you microwave with plastic wrap and stuff like that, you can absorb some of those xenoestrogens. Laundry detergent or cleaning products, good reason not to clean the house. Use unbleached products like menstrual pads, paper towels, and toilet paper. Some people use shower heads. I don't know about chlorine being a xenoestrogen. Some people say yes, some people say no, so that's kind of questionable. But lotions and creams and lubricants, try to stay away from all that stuff. Also, fingernail polish, that stuff's lethal. You know, if you ever go see someone go and get their nails done professionally, those people usually have a mask on and there's like, air circulating and stuff like that because it's very toxic. Essential oils or perfumes that are not, use essential oils or perfumes rather than a fake perfume. Joanne got me turned on to Pacifica. Is that how you pronounce it, Pacifica?
Yes.
It's a natural perfume. And then outgassing from carpets, furniture, bedding, and so on. Birth control contains unnatural hormones in it, and so does hormone replacement therapy. Okay, I talked about this earlier. So these are all healthy hormones that are in the receptor sites. So you have a healthy cell, and even if the body recycles the estrogen, it'll stay healthy as long as the liver is able to get rid of the bad. But once a mutated estrogen happens, then the cell can turn bad. And if you get enough of it, that's what cancer is. Okay, the phytoestrogens or pseudoestrogens, like in red raspberry. And it really kind of kicks my butt whenever they say, oh, you shouldn't do red raspberry because there's estrogen in it. But it actually helps prevent breast cancer, not contribute to it. And here's some soybeans. I'm not a real fan with soybeans for two reasons. If they use the whole soy, it's not as bad. But the outer soy contains a mild poison, and the antidote to that poison is in the inner soy. So if they use the whole soy, it's not as bad. If they use just the outer soy, that can be really, really bad. It can also affect the thyroid. And I suspect it can affect the thyroid only if you use the outer soy, even though I haven't read anything about that. But I've been on a diet that I use some soy products, and my thyroid I've had a bad thyroid for a lot of years, and my thyroid has actually improved a little bit. So I suspect it's also as long as the product is made from the whole soy. Different places where these mutated hormones go is the same place where iodine goes. So it can go to the thyroid, to the breast tissue, to the liver, and to the cervix. I forgot to put cervix down there. Okay, any questions about any of those?
Could you just repeat what you were saying about black cohosh and breast cancer?
I can. Red raspberry, black cohosh, blue cohosh, and blue vervain contain a pseudo or a fake estrogen. It's something the body can use as estrogen. You know, like, I want to blow my nose. I don't have a Kleenex, so I'll grab some toilet paper. Not exactly the same thing, but it works. Well, that's how these hormones are. It's not exactly a hormone, but it's something that the body can use as a hormone. But the plant-based pseudo hormone never ever mutates, ever. Unlike the hormones that our body or other animals produce. Those can mutate. Is that what you wanted to hear?
He says yes.
Okay. Again, prevention is key. To get mutated hormones out, there's something called indole-3 carbinol. Indole-3 carbinol is found in things like cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, things like that. Actually, here's the list of them. Broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, collard greens, kale, kohlrabi, mustard greens, radishes, rutabaga, turnips. They all contain that. Sometimes you have to watch with these, like, if I eat too much of those foods, since most of them are cruciferous vegetables, you have to watch your thyroid a little bit. But if you don't have a thyroid problem, unless you eat so much that you choke, I can't imagine it being a problem. So you could eat one of those every day. But if you eat a lot of it, since there's something in it that kind of blocks the thyroid's ability to absorb iodine, you could end up with a little bit of a goiter. But this is very good. And anytime a woman says, doctor said that, you know, they come in and they say, I had breast cancer one time, or the doctor suspects I have breast cancer, right away I put them on indole-3 carbinol and suggest that they eat a lot of these foods. Another thing I would do is make sure that my pH was where it should be. The saliva and urine pH ideally should be around 6.3 to 6.6. You will see a lot of controversy about that. A lot of people say 7.0, 7.5. Joanne, by any chance, do you have the link to that webinar that we did? If you don't, it's no problem. I can.
Just posted it.
Yeah, I knew you would. Good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
But this is a whole class, which is about 2 hours about pH imbalance. So we're just going to skim over through it real quick. I will tell you this, though. The reason why there's a connection between breast cancer or any kind of cancer and a pH imbalance is let's say this is an abnormal cell. The T cells go around, sees it, and it commissions the lymphatic system to get started, and which also sends enzymes. What an enzyme does is it opens up the pore of a cell, abnormal cell, and all the fluid rushes in. So I always compare it to putting a balloon at the end of a hose and turning it on. After it gets enough of the fluid runs in, it explodes, it bursts. And that's what happens to the abnormal cancer, or abnormal cells. It will burst. But if the fluid that surrounds the cells of the body, if it's too alkaline or too acidic, this membrane gets thicker, which makes it harder to blow up, and it kills the enzyme. So the enzyme can't do its job. Therefore, the cancer can just keep growing and growing and growing. Some people go around with a 7.5 pH, and they think that, oh, cancer can't grow in an alkaline medium. I had the lady who got me into this, who saved my life the first time. She would always say, her pH was 7.0, and I go, Carolyn, you really don't want 7.0 because it's hard on your body and stuff like that. And she said, well, at least I won't get cancer. But she did get cancer. She actually got cancer 3 times. Well, 4 times. 3 times she overcame it. The 4th time she did not. And the whole time her pH was 7.0. So if you read somewhere where they say you cannot get cancer at 7.0, that's wrong. Otto Warburg, who got the Nobel Peace Prize for thinking that, started the whole idea about pH, which was very important, very valuable, and amazing, but it wasn't perfect. I would read books like Your Health, Your Choice by Dr. Ted Morter, or Alkalize or Die by Dr. Brody. They have more up-to-date information. So getting the pH normal is very important. There it is. Kept on skipping over that. Okay, any questions?
No questions.
All right. We have 4 eliminating systems: the lungs, the bowels, the kidneys, and the skin. Then we have 2 filtering systems, which is the liver and the lymph. If you keep all those working well, again, abnormal cells don't have a chance. There are a lot of things that people poo-poo about wearing a bra or using antiperspirants, but it's not. It's true. Antiperspirants do not allow the toxins to come out through the underarmpits, which is the main hub to get rid of things to the skin. I mean, you'll sweat on your brow or sometimes on your back, but you really sweat more in your underarmpits. And whenever people use antiperspirant, they do not sweat. If they don't sweat, those toxins stay in the tissue around the underarmpit and around the breast. And the immune system has to clean all that out, and an immune system that's a little bit sluggish cannot. So there is a correlation between antiperspirants and breast cancer, no matter what your OBGYN might say. So I would use something that's natural. I used to use Milk of Magnesia by Family West because there was no aspartame and chemicals in it. And I can't find it anymore. I don't think they even make it anymore. Then I went to Ataya Stone, which is a mineral stone. You just wet it and you put it under your underarms, and the minerals keep bacteria from growing. I have used Nature's Fresh, which is a good thing to have around anyhow. I love this stuff. Matter of fact, one time, my right breast, right where the cleavage is, I had something that was about, and I have little boobs. For a fat lady, I have little boobs. And there was something that was probably about the size of an orange. They got real hard in there, a huge lump. And I mean, I noticed it like grew almost every day. And I know that the body uses enzymes to get rid of abnormal cells, and I had some Nature's Fresh. So I'd spray that puppy 10 to 15 times a day. And it got all mushy. And whatever it was, and I don't know if it's a fibroid, I don't know if it's cancer, I don't know. But it was something that wasn't supposed to be there. And it went away. So whenever I saw that, and someone had said they used Nature's Fresh for their underarm pits instead of using it with, antiperspirant, I thought, even better. So here are some natural things you can use. If you want this recipe, email Joanne or myself, and we will send it to you. Okay. Another thing.
There's a question.
I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Sorry. Can Nature's Fresh help with keloids?
Not as nearly as well. For keloids, and even though I'm white, I did have keloids, and because there's probably black in my ancestry somewhere, who knows? I don't think any of us pure bloods anymore. But I had a keloid on my knee, and I put castor oil packs on it. I put castor oil on it, and it thinned that out. I still have a scar, but it's a flat scar. It's not that raised, discolored scar that it was. That would be much better for you, I think. Okay. Any other questions?
What about taking niacin for a flush, then getting into a sauna to release the toxins?
Yes, anytime you can sweat and get rid of toxins through the skin, that's better. Then you don't have to get it out through the other eliminating system. So that would be helpful. But rather than niacin flush, which isn't real pleasant, if you would drink sage tea causes you to sweat. So you could do the niacin. I think the sage tea would just be a little tinge better. Okay? But the sweat lodges that the American Indians used to use was really very smart, because you can get rid of a lot of bacteria, a lot of toxins out through the skin when you sweat. Anything else?
No, that's good for now.
Whoever just said about the sweating, they get an apple for today. Because I'm glad they said something about making yourself sweat, because that is a very good way of doing it. Okay. This is another thing that they said is an urban legend or myth, is properly fitting bras. They did one study, and the one study showed that the amount of breast cancer, the people that were tight bras and the people that were these fancy bras that are meant for lymphatic drainage, didn't show much of a difference. One study. But it makes sense that since this fluid flows all through your body, to have something really restrictive is going to stop that flow a little bit. If you take a hose and you squish it, some water is still going to come out, but it's not going to be as forceful or as efficient as if you didn't have any pressure on the hose. Make sense? So making sure that your bra fits properly is really, really important. There's I can't even remember what the name of it is, but there's a lady that we call the bra lady, and there's these certain bras that they're just amazing, and they're so tailored. Instead of just having like a 33C, there'd be like 8 different kinds of 33Cs to make sure that it fits you properly, and then adjusts and stuff like that. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that your cup does not runneth over. You want to make sure that the bra and back doesn't go up. Typically, you measure here to find the number, like a 34, and then you measure across the breast, that's supposed to be a straight line, to find the cup size. If there's no difference, then a double A. So that's your cup size. If there's 1 inch difference, then it's an A, and so on. Whenever you put your bra on, you should be able to easily slide 2 fingers around underneath the band. And underwire bras are too restrictive and can cause some problems. Any questions about your bra?
No questions.
Another thing, someone had told me that studied a lot about this because she had breast cancer, is that you should not wear a bra to bed at night. You should take it off. Kind of let the girls flop around during the night. Okay. Another thing that I try to avoid, not just because of breast cancer, is GMO, genetically modified. And now they call it genetically engineered now. So genetically engineered, genetically modified. Who knows? They might have come up with another name since the last time I went to a lecture about it. Whenever I taught one time at a health fair outside of Pittsburgh Airport, and everyone was walking, and we're doing iridology, and iridology fascinates people. So we had a big, long line. And there's this one guy there that had something about GMO. And he was supposed to be some kind of a radio announcer. I don't remember his name. But people were kind of passing by, oh, okay. And it went on. And he got really mad. And he stood up on his table, and he screamed at the top of his voice, "Listen to me. My beautiful wife died of breast cancer. When they did the autopsy, they found out genetically modified the bacteria from genetically modified foods, especially corn, is what killed her. This stuff is killing us." Then, of course, everybody, oh my goodness, and paid attention. There has been a lot of studies, and I don't have them all here, but we do have a class on genetically modified that if Joanne reminds me, I'll make sure I put it online on YouTube. But there's a lot of studies that prove that the bacteria and the viruses that they put as markers in genetically modified foods can cause things like breast cancer and other cancers. A lot of people they say, oh, yeah, we should label genetically modified foods. I'm not for labeling. I'm suggest you take it out altogether. I mean, labeling might be a start, but we need to stop it, because if they genetically modify corn or a plant, not necessarily corn, because corn kind of pollinates by banging against each other. But let's say this is a tomato, and it's genetically modified, and the bee will pollinate that. The bee will then probably have that bacteria marker. Any honey that it produces, even though it seems natural, can have genetically modified problems, the bacteria or the viruses. If a cow would eat corn, the cow could have genetically modified properties in its tissue that the body made out of the corn. If we eat the cow, we can end up with genetically modified problems as well. So try whenever possible to avoid genetically modified foods. I buy my seeds to do my garden, and I think growing your own garden is a big help. I get my seeds from Seed Savers. But try to get it from some company that do not use genetically modified plants for their seeds. Any questions or anything anybody want to add?
No.
Okay. Detoxifying the tissue by sweating is good. And you can also soak in a tub. You put Epsom salts with ginger. Some people say that the ginger irritates your skin. I got pretty tough skin, so it doesn't irritate mine. Make sure that if you start feeling a little burning sensation that you get out. Use a loofah, or I use plastic pot scrubbers. Ada, was it you that sent me the plastic pot? I can't remember now. Yeah, I thought it was you. Excuse me. Ada sent me a life supply of plastic pot scrubbers. Thank you, Ada, very, very much. This was like, what, maybe 4 Christmases ago or something like that. I got this tin. Well, anyhow. But I use the plastic pot scrubbers. What I do is I cut the little plastic on the top, little plastic on the bottom, and I roll it out so that it is like this. Then I tie a knot here and a knot here. If not, it's frays. And I use soap, and that's what I use to bathe with. My nether parts is the only part that I don't. Everything else I use on my face, my arms, everything. Plastic pot scrubber. That exfoliates the skin better than the stuff you buy in a fancy store. And it takes all that skin, dead skin off, so that you can sweat very easily and get rid of the toxins. Some people also use a dry brush. You can do the same thing as it exfoliates. When I bathe, and I bathe with these, I start at the foot, and I go up, start at the arm, and go up, and I go to this area. You got 2 little hubs here. It kind of processes it. So I do it like you would do a cat. You know how you pet a cat or a dog? I go in a motion that's like petting it, like stroke, 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 that way. Dry brushing is just as good. It's just you got to take a shower anyhow. And this just seems a little more efficient to me. But either one would be good. If you're going to dry brush, make sure they're natural bristles, because they're not as good if you don't. Any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Another thing to do is to activate the lymphatic system. Your lymph nodes are in between your muscles. So whenever you move, that circulates the fluid a little bit. And you want the fluid to circulate because it's going to take out bad and carry it away from the cells and bring in good nutrients and bring, good fluid into the cells. So you want to keep those moving. Probably besides the dry skin brushing or the plastic pot scrubbers, massage is really good, or bouncing on a trampoline, a little mini trampoline, or a big trampoline, but at my age, I'm not going to try climbing up on one of those things. I use a little mini trampoline that my dog takes over because he thinks this is bed. You don't have to jump high. Matter of fact, my feet don't even really leave the trampoline. I'm bouncing up and down, but I don't lose contact at all. So I'm not getting air between. And I keep my feet about shoulder width. And swing your arms. You can swing your arms. I sometimes swing my arms, or sometimes I hold a phone because I want to listen to music when I do it. They suggest you do it 5 to 7 minutes twice a day. Some people were like, oh, I have bad knees or I have a bad back. I have both. And I can still jump on the trampoline. It's hard at first, but I can do it. Okay, so as I said, the lymph nodes are in between the muscles. So whenever you walk, the muscles glide across the lymph nodes, causing some of the fluid to circulate. Being a couch potato, or in my case, a Facebook potato, because I answer emails on Facebook a lot, you don't circulate the lymph like you should. If you have a sedentary life, it's good to do a trampoline. This happens when you walk, which is better than just sitting down. But whenever you do a trampoline, the muscles separate, and then it clashes down. So it's like giving the lymph nodes a really deep massage. Every lymph node, you have hundreds of lymph nodes through the body. Everybody understand that? And usually you can get a cheap trampoline at a yard sale for $3 to $5. Or I think it's like maybe $35 if you buy a brand new one. Okay, any questions?
No questions.
Okay. Oh, and if you're old, like me, they have some now that you can hold on to. They have like this handle that you can hold on to so you don't lose your balance and break your leg or something. Okay. Another thing.
Question.
Okay.
I apologize. Is it true that alcohol is bad for breast health?
Is alcohol bad for what?
Breast health.
Breast health? Alcohol is bad for the liver. Matter of fact, people who sometimes drink too much end up with cirrhosis of the liver where the liver gets hard. So alcohol is bad for the liver, and a weak liver is bad for breast. It can cause breast cancer. So indirectly, yes. Although the alcohol doesn't like go chink to the breast, it weakens the liver so the liver can't clean out the mutated hormones. Very good question. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. The human body needs calcium and magnesium. Under 30 years old, or definitely under 35 years old, under 35 years old, definitely under 30 years old, you can usually get away with a 2 calcium to 1 magnesium ratio. You also need vitamin D. If you don't have at least 1 magnesium for every 2 calciums, you can end up with calcium deposits. They can be in your knees, in your joints, heel spurs, but they also can be found in the breast tissue. And calcium in the breast tissue many times can turn into cancer. I'd be more worried about calcium deposit in my breast than I would be just to have a cyst or fibroids in my breast. Milk products, milk, cheese, ice cream, and yogurt, not butter, but anything that has a casein in it, they contain 8 calciums to 1 magnesium. The body cannot utilize and use and absorb and do its job with milk. We used to be taught that milk is a perfect food. It is for a baby cow, but even a full-grown cow does not drink milk anymore. They are weaned. Milk is not the perfect food. I have so many people, especially older ladies my age, they come and say, "Oh, the doctor told me to go on a milk diet. I went to a dietitian. The dietitian said I should have cheese and milk and all this other stuff because I might get osteoporosis." There was one lady that came to me that She was crying. She said, I don't understand it. I've done milk all my life. I do a lot of milk, and I have osteoporosis so bad that they are afraid that I'm going to end up in a wheelchair. And I said, well, did you ever read this study? And I can get this study if you need it, or you can find it under milksucks.com. And no, this is not my website, although I like the name. But there's a study that shows that milk products actually cause osteoporosis because it causes more of a pH imbalance than what good calcium is in there. And then the fact is imbalanced. You can't use it very well. A cow has 4 stomachs. We have 1. We were not meant to do cow's milk. I can't honestly say I never do milk, but I do milk for, like, Thanksgiving's coming up. I'll get some milk to put in the mashed potatoes. I do a little bit of Parmesan cheese, and that's pretty much my milk supply. I rarely do ice cream, maybe once every couple of years. And the heel spurs that I used to have and the calcium deposit that I used to have, I didn't have it in my breast, though, are gone. I also take extra magnesium to help clean that up. Some people get calcium supplements that do not have the calcium and the magnesium in balanced form, do not have vitamin D, boron, or phosphorus. And that's actually going to cause problems for you. I would avoid that kind of a calcium. Okay. Any questions?
Yes. Which magnesium? Stearate, citrate, etc.?
Yep. I use Nature Sunshine's magnesium complex. I know there's a guy that wrote a book about this calcium is better, this magnesium is better than this one, and that one's better than this one. I don't think you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Different calciums, chelated, magnesium. I keep saying calcium, I'm sorry. Magnesium needs to be chelated to something. And different agents that they use to chelate allows the body to use the magnesium in a different way. So I don't just use one magnesium. I do the complex. So I don't think the stearate is necessarily better than the oxalate, not oxalate. Anyhow, one is not better than the other for the whole body. You need a mixture of them. Does that help? That answer your question?
She says yes.
Okay. Another thing, a gentleman called me up, and he said, let me send you some books. The book was called Cavitations. And he said, my wife had breast cancer, and we have a friend that I graduated with that became a dentist, and he said, oh, that's this tooth right here. And he poked on it, and she said, I've always had problems with that tooth. They keep having to replace the filling. And he said, that tooth goes, the toxins from it go directly to the breast. And there is, if you go online and you type in cavitations or dentistry reflexes or something like that, you will see where each tooth that happens to. So he said, we need to pull these out and get rid of these fillings. And they pulled out the teeth, and her breast cancer went away. Again, if the liver was working well, it should be able to take care of all that. But I would try to make sure that you don't go around with a bad tooth. Because I don't know about you, but I hate going to the dentist. I have PSTD or PTSD or whatever they call it, because we had the world's worst dentist in the little town that I grew in. They had even though his name was Holuska, they had a picture of all the people that graduated, and he was dead last. And I don't know if they put him in order of their class ranking or whatever, but I wouldn't doubt it because he was dead last. So I had a problem going to a dentist. I mean, one time he got a drill stuck in my tooth. We're talking a really bad dentist here. But find that there are some good dentists out there. Don't go around with bad teeth because the infection can cause a lot of problems. Okay, any question about cavitations?
No questions.
Now, this is the one, for some reason, the medical profession really, really pushes. I think it's because they know you can't do anything about your genes. You can't throw your mom away and your genes go with her, you know. It doesn't work that way. And they do this. I wish they would talk more about the liver, staying away from toxins, no Tylenol and stuff like that causes the liver to go bad, and all the other things that we talked about, eating well and stuff like that. But they want to tell you about the gene. Anytime you have a gene, even though they can map genes now, and we are born with genetic weaknesses, all of us are. When I was 17, the doctor said in 6 months, you're going to have to be on insulin. It's in your genes and your blood sugar's high. And indeed, my dad's brothers, my dad had a sugar problem. He wasn't on insulin, but he had a sugar problem. All his brothers did. His 3 sisters ended up going blind and lost their legs to diabetes before they died. And all my cousins, I mean, it is really heavy duty in the family. But I decided, you know what? I'm not going to eat the noodles and the pierogies and the pugash and stuff like that my aunts and my cousins ate. And I stayed away from a lot of sugars. And up to 2 years ago, my blood sugar was really decent, very, very good. Because something has to turn that gene on. Just being born with the gene alone does not condemn you to having a certain problem. Not if it's something like that. Now, you know, I'm born with my dad's nose as well as the blood sugar problems. There's nothing I'm going to do about that. I can eat whatever I want to eat, and I still got this honker. But the other genes, the genes that causes health conditions, can be turned on or turned off. My dad had a genetically weak liver. I had a weak liver. My daughter has a weak liver, and my oldest granddaughter of my daughters has a weak liver. But you can go in there and you can change the DNA for your, like our other 4 kids don't, just the oldest one. So I mean, it's good to get the gene, know what your weaknesses are. That's what I love iridology. You know, if you've never heard of iridology before, ask Joanne, and she could do a once-over and tell you, oh, you know what, your family, there's a little weakness here. And I know there's a weakness in my family's liver. A lot of bootleggers in the way back. So find out what your genes are. Baby those puppies. Take nutrients that are good for them and stay away from things that are bad for them. And that gene never has to be turned on. Okay. Now we're going to talk about how to test yourself. I love this. I know having a cartoon in the middle of a lecture like this is kind of not kosher, but I think it's so cute. I don't believe in mammograms. Mammograms are horrible. They are the absolute dead least efficient way to determine the health of your breast. Of the women that came to me, and I'm being very, very conservative here, 99% of them, mammogram did not find their breast cancer. Their husband did. They did. You know, either doing a self-breast exam or their husband would find it. And then they went to the doctor and they did a mammogram. but not like yearly mammograms. I don't see that working. And what they do is they put your breast in a vise and they smash it. So if you do have abnormal cells that the body's trying to cocoon off, could burst it. And the cancer could go, woo, just all over the place. And then, just to make sure, to really make it unsafe, they shoot radiation through it. Not good at all. If they say, oh, we see a little something in your mammogram, let's do an ultrasound. Why an ultrasound, you may ask? Because an ultrasound is more conclusive. It's more accurate. Well, then why in a flying leap do they do a mammogram? Just do an ultrasound. They should just throw all these machines away. Just totally throw them away. They are useless, and they scare the bejeebers out of people. I also have women call, oh, please look at my eyes because the doctor said he sees a spot in mammogram. We're going to do an ultrasound. I don't know what to do. I'm so worried. And I'll look and I'll say, no, I don't think so. But, get the ultrasound to make sure, and there'll be nothing. That happens more than anything else. So if an ultrasound is more accurate, then do it. The doctor will give you a hard time, but say, hey, buddy, this is my boobs. This is what I want done. Sometimes insurances won't pick it up if the doctor's being a real bugger, and you might have to self-pay. But at least an ultrasound doesn't do damage to the breast tissue. I don't believe in ultrasounds if you're pregnant, because they have found that it can affect the baby's nervous system and brain. But as far as I know, it does nothing bad to the breast tissue. If anybody has heard differently, please let me know. But I kind of try to keep up on that. Even better than an ultrasound is a self-breast exam. And I'll show you some pictures on how to do it in a minute or so. There's a right way of doing it, then there's a half way of doing it that's not going to do you any good. But a self-breast exam, like I said, that's how most women find it. Either they do a self-breast exam or their husband helps them out. Like, husbands can be nice like that sometimes. And they will find the lump. But the most efficient way is called a thermogram. A thermogram tells you if there's even a little bit more circulation or warmth or heat in that area. And can pick things up definitely before a mammogram, probably before an ultrasound, and even many times before a self-exam. Okay. The pink ribbons. I feel like taking these pink ribbons and going to the people who started this BS and shove it up their nose. There was a study that showed that they did 1,000 women. They were over 50 years old, and they screened them for 10 years. And they found that 996 women did not die from cancer, compared to 995.6 women did not die from cancer, while the counterpart, 996 did. So basically, 0.4% of a difference is all it made by getting a mammogram done. I know I didn't say that right, but I hope you can read it. Plus, the radiation is 1,000 times greater than a typical chest X-ray. And this ionized radiation builds up in the body. If you get it done every year, I know some people, if they see something wrong, they do it a couple times a year. Or if they had cancer. It also can increase the chances of any cancer metastasizing to other parts of your body. There can be a lot of false positives, and that happens a lot. And then, oh, I'm fine. I had a mammogram, and the doctor said it was fine. And I even had a lady tell me that. She said, I had this lump, but I had my mammogram. I said, no, you had a lump, go to the doctors. Now, it was not cancer. It was a fibroid, but the mammogram didn't pick that up, although sometimes it does. All right, Dr. McCullough is an amazing doctor. He's a chiropractor, and I think he's also an ND, if I'm not mistaken. But he has a whole thing on about mammograms. It's a real eye-opener. If you need this link, if you email me or Joanne, we can give it to you. Okay, this is an actual picture of an ultrasound that someone sent me. I have no idea. I don't know how to read these things. But somewhere you can tell that it was a cyst and not a water fluid cyst, not a full cyst like for cancer. But they usually want to do a needle biopsy. What happens a lot of times is you start getting abnormal cells growing. The body will try to encapsulate that. It will try to put a little, like the wagons, they surround it with wagons to protect it so that the cancer cannot escape. Kind of gels it off. If you do a biopsy, even if it's a needle biopsy, you puncture that cocoon. And whenever you pull the needle back out, some of the fluid and cancer can escape that cocoon. I don't believe in getting a biopsy done. If that lump had not gone down in my breast tissue, I would advise someone to go to the doctor and say, you know what, there's a lump here. Remove it, and then you can do with it whatever you want. Do whatever test on. You can take it out to dinner. I don't care what you do with it, but I do not want you to stick a needle in my boob because I don't want the cancer to spread. Okay. Any other questions about this?
No questions.
Okay. So this is how you do a breast exam. Let's say I'm checking out this boob right here. I would lay with a pillow under my shoulder, my hand behind my head. Then I would take this hand and I would first go this way. And you could do them in any order you want to, but I'm doing this one first. You go back and forth this way, kind of like spokes on a wheel, to check for lumps. And what you do is you kind of stick your fingers and you walk them back and forth. Then you go up and down this way. Oops. Like this. The whole way across. And then you start at the nipple and you go around and around and around. It's best to do it at the same time of the month if you're younger, because your breast tissue changes a little bit with your hormones. When your estrogen is dominant, the breast tissue will be a little more solid and it gets a little flabbier whenever your estrogen goes down. So you want to do it at the same time. Also, at the bottom of the breast, right here, there's like a little ridge. Don't let that scare you. That's supposed to be there. And it's best to do something. Use like coconut oil or soap if you're showering. Then you look at your breast. Usually one hangs a little bit more. See how accurate that is? I don't know about y'all, but look in the mirror. You'll be surprised. You got one boob will hang a little lower than the other usually. But look to see if there's any kind of dimples or if they start getting a little bit lopsided. and then you put it over your head and look for any shape that shouldn't be there, or if there's a dimpling in it. And when I'm talking about dimpling, I'm not talking about like a big like that. Sometimes it will just look like the outside of an orange, those little dimples. Anything about a self-breast exam? I would do it once a month if I was menstruating. What I do is whenever I take a shower, I don't do all this exactly because there's no breast cancer in my family. I'm like really, really old, and I've never had a cyst or a lump except for that one time. So I just soap up my hands and just kind of, do it in the shower. And I do it probably about once a month. Any questions about the self-breast exam?
No questions.
Okay. This is somebody that had a thermogram done. The blue is good. The green's not as good. The yellow is even a little bit worse. The red or orange is even worse. And then if you see any white, I don't see any white on this one, that's really, really bad. But you can see a couple things on this breast. This is someone who has breast cancer. This is someone who does not have breast cancer. But you can see the little tentacles that are going out. A lot of times a mammogram doesn't pick that up. Oh, here's some white. But that's probably from sweating is under her breast. You can see, look, not only does she have breast cancer, but look at this lymph node right here. That would concern me. Then she has a little bit of white under here. That would concern me as well. Then you can see there's like another little lymph node right here. Okay. If I found a lump, the first thing that I would do is not panic. Most lumps that you feel in your breast are nothing. We get lumpy as we get older. It's not that big of a deal. There is breast cancer out there, but there's a lot more people that have lumps that don't have breast cancer than do. If I found a lump, I would go and get a thermogram. I don't know about other states, but Pennsylvania, I don't think the insurance that is common in Pennsylvania covers thermograms. Typically, if you just get not a full body scan, because they do the thermograms on all over your body if you want it, is anywhere between $150 and $300, which is, $150 to $300 is money, but it doesn't do any damage like the mammogram does. I would rather pay a little bit for something that's accurate and doesn't do any damage than to get something free that can cause a problem and isn't accurate. I don't believe in biopsy, as I said. Then, this came from a lady named Ann, and Ann doesn't live around here anymore. But the doctor found out that she had breast cancer. And he said, okay, Monday I want you to do this, this, and this, and this. We're going to start the chemo. And they're talking like this, and they're like shoving all this stuff down her throat. And she said, wait a minute. What are my options? You're not even telling me my options. You don't tell me what caused it, And they said, well, this is how we do it. So she said, you know what? My son's getting married. I'm going to go to his wedding, and I'll think about this Monday. This is my last child. Nothing's going to bother me. It wasn't her last child. It was one of her kids, anyhow. Nothing's going to ruin this wedding for me. So she took a time to pause, and she said, that was one of the best things that she could have done. Because as soon as she heard cancer, she had the bejeebers scared out of her. And she panicked. And she was about ready to let them do whatever they wanted to. If her son wasn't getting married that weekend, she probably would have been there Monday morning to let them start poisoning her and cutting her and doing all that kind of stuff. So she suggests to everyone, and I think this is good, a day or two pause. It takes years and years for breast cancer to spread. If you find out on Friday that you have breast cancer, you have wait till Monday to do something before it makes a critical difference in your health and your survival rate. So take a pause, pray, think, do a lot of research. Find out why the lump grew. Get an iridology consultation. There's a really good video, and I don't know, Joanne, do you have this video that you could just plop in there that they can click on it? Oh, Joanne, don't move. Leave me now. Isn't she wonderful? Thank you so much, Joanne.
Hello? She's wonderful. Thank you so much, Joanne. You're welcome. Okay, so you click on it, and then you can memorize it. This is by Lorraine Day. You can memorize and you can watch the rest of it after this. But the name of the video is, and I think she also wrote a book by the same name, Cancer Doesn't Scare Me Anymore. Lorraine Day was a head honcho in a hospital, a famous hospital out in California or LA or some, I don't know where it was. But she was very well known, and the hospital was very well known. And she was diagnosed with having breast cancer. And she thought, I don't want to go through what I see these people go through. I just don't want to go through that. So she did a lot of research. And in the video and in the book is a lot of things that you can do. Like she went on a macro diet, a lot of raw vegetables, a lot of raw fruits, things like that. I would get that book if I thought I had cancer, if I was diagnosed of having breast cancer. Suzanne Somers, back in 2001, which is over 19 years ago, announced that she had breast cancer. She allowed them to remove the breast, or the tumor. They didn't even remove the whole breast. They removed the tumor. Lorraine Day had her breast removed. So let them cut it out. And then when they went to do the chemo and the radiation and stuff like that, she said no. Suzanne Somers said, no, I'm going to be using, I know she used mistletoe, because I thought that's a weird thing to use, but she used mistletoe and other herbs and changed her diet and got really healthy. And she's still alive today. And the doctors had made it sound like if you don't do this radiation and chemotherapy, you're going to die. But she didn't. Okay. If it's in the family and I'm afraid about the gene, I would probably always take Liver Cleanse formula. As long as you wake up at night, I would take Liver Cleanse formula. There's something called Breast Assured and indole-3-carbinol. Man, I forgot to put that in here. Joanne, could you email me later on and remind me to put indole-3-carbinol in here? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. But I would take these things to protect the breast health. Another thing, whenever I took a class on doing clinical trials, our teacher at the time was doing a clinical trial on vitamin E. And some doctor decided that vitamin E was antioxidant, so he was going to have women who had breast cancer, advanced breast cancer, pierce a vitamin E capsule, and the vitamin E had selenium for this study. And they squished out the juice from the capsule, and they rubbed it on the breast. And a high percentage, I can't remember now what it was,
but a high percentage of the women's breast cancer started to go away. And I know many, many times a woman has done this and her fibroids go away. Okay. Other things I would do is eat good organic vegetables, preferably locally grown, although you can't get them in the wintertime. Then I go to the grocery store. But if you have a garden, you know, doing your own garden is actually pretty helpful. Stay away from hormone-free meats, no dairy products. Avoid coffee, tea, and caffeine. Coffee, tea, and caffeine do a couple things. They take cancer from one part of the body and cause it to metastasize, even sometimes to the pancreas. But coffee, tea, and caffeine can also affect the hormones in your breast tissue. So there are some studies that show links between these and breast cancer. And then take, you know, things like Indole-3-Carbinol, Liver Cleanse, and Breast Assured. If I was Angelina Jolie, that's what I would have done is to have my breast removed. Okay.
There's
Another thing.
A question. Could you? Oh, sorry. Could you repeat what you said about what women do to make fibroids go away?
Vitamin E. They take vitamin E with selenium and they pierce it. They take a needle, a pin, and they poke the little capsule and they squish out all the fluid. And then they rub the fluid all over their breast. And I would suggest doing the liver cleanse too, because the liver cleanse is, I mean, the liver is what allowed the fibroids to form in the breast in the first place. Okay? Never be afraid to ask me to repeat things, because sometimes it doesn't always come out in English either. Okay, so.
There's a follow-up question. Would that work for uterine fibroids?
Well, you really couldn't rub vitamin E on your uterus. If I had a uterine fibroid, I would work with liver cleanse. You could take some vitamin E, and I would take Indole-3-Carbinol. Also do castor oil packs. Remember I said how it will thin out a keloid? It can thin out the fibroids too. Especially good whenever the fibroids escape the uterus and like wrap around the intestines and stuff like that. Any other questions?
What about ovarian cysts?
Okay, ovarian cysts, if it's on the left side, I would take something called lechisis. It'll cause it to burst and the body reabsorb it. Or if it's a chocolate cyst, it'll cause it to shrink, help cause it to shrink. If it's on the right ovary, I would take belladonna homeopathic. And then I would take the liver cleanse.
If it's on both ovaries?
Then I would alternate. Typically, how old is this person?
'53.
Okay. Through menopause, or yes or no?
Not sure.
Okay. Well, what I would do is, if they have not gone through menopause, typically when you have cysts on your ovaries, you get pimples around the corners of your mouth or your chin. If it's on the left side, that's probably where the cyst is on your ovary. That's when I would use the belladonna. I would use the lechisis. If it's on the right side, you get the acne. then I would use a belladonna. If you're through menopause and you're not ovulating, that you don't know which ovary is the most active at the time, then I would just alternate. If you have a pain on the left side, do the left first. It doesn't really matter. But most of the time, whenever you take those homeopathics, especially if you take them in pretty aggressive amounts, you'll get a acne. You'll get a pimple. Or you'll feel like a pain whenever they burst. It doesn't last forever. Just the really bad pain only lasts for a couple minutes, and then it just feels like a dull ache until the body reabsorbs all that fluid that's in the cyst. And you can spray the nature spray over where the pain is, because how the body reabsorbs the fluid is through enzymes, and that's what Nature's Fresh is. And when you get Nature's Fresh, it'll say something about how you can use it to deodorize your clothing or use it for stains. We're not doofy. We know that's what the FDA says that what you can use it for. But to get it to have any kind of a claim, Nature's Sunshine would have had to spend over $1 million, which would have made that a lot more expensive. So they just didn't do it. But it does tell you that you can swallow it. So you know it's not meant to just clean your clothes. If someone is not doing radiation or chemotherapy, you might want to do glutathione patch. But if they're doing it, I would not do a glutathione patch, because glutathione can protect the body from chemo. It pulls it out. So the person will throw up, but If someone does radiation, I would drink fresh aloe vera. I've had a couple women that had radiation treatments, and it charred and destroyed it. It burnt their esophagus. And although it's rare, men can get breast cancer too. Okie dokie. Do you have any questions? I don't really sell herbs anymore. I have another adventure. First I retired, then I decided I'm going to do another adventure. So Joanne has been gracious enough to say that she can help you out. So you can, if you have like really good typing skills, you can print out her whole email or do her phone number, give her a call. I can't let you go without, someday before I die, you're going to have it like BHW or something. And her Facebook group is really, really very good. One of my favorites online, actually. Okay, does anybody have any questions?
I posted the links to what you have of the this class on YouTube, so if anybody missed it.
Oh, I had this class on YouTube?
Not cool. The whole thing, just pieces.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. That's good. Thank you. All right, do you know what next week's class is?
I posted that link earlier.
Oh, that's okay. As long as everybody knows. I'll figure it out like 2 minutes before the class.
Sorry?
All righty. Well, Joanne, thank you so, so much. I appreciate it. You all the help you've done for all these years. I couldn't do this without you. I wouldn't do this without you. That's why I called you and said, you sure you're going to do this again? Because without you, I'm not doing it.
My pleasure, as always. Thank you. And a lot of people are saying thank you and they enjoyed the class.
I'm glad. So come join us again. We talk about different things every week. And again, call Joanne if you want herbs. Email me if you have a question. All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks again, Joanne.
You're welcome. Thank you.